Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel, Gardening in Cold Spring Harbor. I'm in Long Island, New York, Zone 7A. I hope everyone is staying safe and are doing well. I wanted to switch gears just a little bit today and talk about roses, specifically how to prune a climbing rose. I prune my climbing roses in 5 easy steps, and in today's video I'm going to share all of these 5 steps with you, my fellow home gardeners. So when you're pruning your own climbing rose, you're going to feel secure and confident. So for those of you looking for that online gardening channel which offers tips, tricks, easy yet proven gardening advice to take your home garden to the next level, don't worry guys, stick around with me today. Go below this video and click the subscribe button if you are enjoying the content of my garden videos, and when YouTube to send you notifications every single time I'll upload a new garden video. Don't forget to click the bell icon as well. Show me that support, my fellow home gardeners. Show me how much you enjoy watching my videos. If you find my videos to be useful and helpful, click the like button below. Super easy for you to do, super pleasing and rewarding to me. Now come with me, let's get gardening. Today I'm going to be pruning my 2 climbing roses, which I have right over here. They are growing in these ceramic containers. I have 1 climbing rose on this side of this trellis, and I have my 2nd climbing rose in the same blue colored container on the other side of the trellis. And as you could see, I have been training my climbing rose to grow upward around the trellis. So both of these climbing roses are roughly 4 years old. I bought them as a bare root and planted both of them in these blue ceramic containers, and in a matter of 4 years they are growing beautifully for me. And every single summer I get an abundance of beautiful bright pink color and amazing strong fragrance. So let's get right into the pruning process. As I said, I prune my climbing roses in 5 separate steps. As you could see, these climbing roses are quite thick and mangy. So we do have quite some work cut out for us. So let's start with what you will need. What supplies you will need today to correctly prune your climbing rose. Let's go over exactly what supplies, what materials you're going to need today in order to prune your climbing rose. The process is actually very, very simple. As long as you have everything prepared and ready, in a matter of no time, your climbing rose will look absolutely neat and perfect. First and foremost, you're going to need a ladder or a step stool of some sort, because remember, we are pruning climbing roses, so they are quite tall. I'm going to be using this step stool today. You're going to need gardening gloves of some sort to protect our hands from those prickly thorns on the rose. You're going to need pruning shears. You're going to need a rake of some sort to spread our fertilizer later on, as well as maybe remove any weeds that you might see growing. You're going to need a bag, a pop-up bag or a bin of some sort to collect all of the cuttings that we're going to be making today. And of course, you're going to need your fertilizer. Today I'm going to be using Rose Tone by Espoma Organic, and I'm going to link it below in the comment section for those of you, my fellow home gardeners, who are not familiar with this product just yet, or maybe you've heard of it but you're not sure where you can purchase it. So it's going to be linked in the comment section below. And that is all that you need, my fellow home gardeners, to correctly and successfully prune your climbing rose. So now let's get into the pruning process itself. Let's jump right into step number 1. What is that step number 1? That is to cut off all of the upper growth. So anything that's above the end point of your archway or your trellis, anything that's sticking up above, we're going to prune off. We're not going to prune it off all the way to the ground. We're going to prune it off to the end point of the trellis. Why? So we could see better. We can get a better picture of what our climbing rose looks like, and also to clean it up to make it look more manageable and more neat. After you are done pruning off the upper portion of your climbing roses, what is that step number 2? Step number 2 is to look for the 3 D's: the dead, diseased, and or damaged. Once you will get in closer to your rose, you're going to clearly see any of those 3 mentioned D's. You might have all 3 of them. You might have maybe just the disease, maybe just the dead, or maybe your rose did wonderfully this past winter season and you don't have any of those 3 D's. But if you see any, you have to cut them off. Let's get into that step number 1, and that is removing the bulk of the upper growth of your climbing rose. Why? To make your rose more manageable. Don't worry about cleaning up. The cleanup will be next. But anything that is unruly, that is sticking out, we must prune off. When looking for the 3 D's, the dead, diseased, or damaged, any of those have to be pruned off. If you're seeing canes with black or red spots, that is a potential sign of a disease. We must cut those off. It's pretty easy to find a damaged cane. Anything that broke off, maybe due to the weight of the snow over winter, maybe due to some wind. If you see any dangling, droopy stems or branches, cut those off. Dead. How can you tell if your rose's stem or cane is dead? If it is black or brown and soft, hollow, dead. Anything that's not green can potentially be dead. But how do we know for sure? Maybe that cane is still dormant. Maybe it still has that brown burgundy pigmentation to it. One very easy way to tell is to remove, of course, our gloves. To come to a branch or a cane and to do something called a finger scratch test. You could see that this cane is still burgundy colored. Is it dead? Is it dying? Or is it dormant? So we use our index finger and we lightly scratch on the cane. You could see the bright green coloring on the inside. That means your climbing rose, that particular branch, is alive. Now, let me show you. Here is another example. You could see that this one was dead. You could see that it's brown, but once you touch it, it easily snaps off, and you could see that it's brown on the inside. That is a dead branch. Now, if you're seeing anything like this, these brown lines on your main canes, main stems, again, don't assume that this is a dead cane. Do the scratch test, and you're going to see what color is on the inside. And take a look. It is nice and green. Other than the finger scratch test, how else can you tell if your rose cane is dead or alive? So a live cane, a live rose cane, should always be flexible to the touch, pliable to the touch. So if you're trying to move it, push on it, it should never snap off or break off. You should always be able to bend it to a certain degree, and it should push back on you like a spring almost, like so. If the branch is indeed dead, you're not going to see the springiness, this flexibility to the branch. Let me show you an example. Here is another branch. It snapped right off. And indeed, inside it is brown and hollow. So if the branch breaks off on you the second you touch it, that branch has been already dead. If you are seeing any discoloration to a cane like this, so the majority of this cane is nice and green, and then you see that the end of this cane is dry and brown in coloring, that could be an indication of a dying cane. So that end piece, that brown end piece, we must cut off as well. Now that we pruned the bulk, the majority of the upper growth, now that we pruned off the dead, diseased or damaged canes as well, what is that step number 3? Step number 3 is to make precision cuts. Where do you make those cuts? Well, let's start from the basics. Our climbing roses, regardless of the varieties, are composed of 2 different canes or 2 different stems. The first are called main canes or main stems. They are these thicker, darker colored, woodier stems. Here is one example. Here is another example. You could see how thick and woody this stem is. Next type of branch or a cane is something called the lateral. So what are lateral? They are thinner, smaller, lighter colored branches that usually grow out of the main cane. Let me show you an example. Here is a main stem, very thick woody. Anything that grows out of the main stem. Here is another main stem, and you could see all these thinner, lighter colored growth. These are your lateral canes. What do we cut when making precision cuts? We never touch the main canes, the thicker, woodier, darker colored ones. We always make the cuts on the thinner, lighter colored lateral canes. Where do we cut? I like to give my climbing roses quite a hard prune. Come mid-spring, my roses always reward me with an abundant amount of bright, fragrant blooms. Don't be afraid. Where do you make that cut? Let's go right into the process. You find a lateral cane, and you always trace it back to the main. So here's an example. Here is the main cane, here is the lateral. You look for these growths, these buds, these nodes. And I like to cut no more than 2 nodes from the main stem. So here, you count 1, you count 2, and you make the cut. If you are seeing any thin, weak branches, we must prune off those as well. We want all the energy to be focused on the thicker, vigil branches, canes, not spindly, thin ones. There's no reason to keep them. What else do we cut off? We look for any intercrossing branches. Let me show you an example. Here is one of the main canes. You can see how nice and thick it is. You could see this thinner cane, thinner branch growing right horizontally to it and intercrossing with it. We do not want any branches to intercross. Why? Because once you're going to get that foliage growth, that leaf growth, it's not going to help your situation at all. because you're gonna start lacking that air circulation within your plant. And what happens when that air circulation starts to lack? That is when you're gonna harbor pests, and that is when you're gonna start seeing fungal disease. Any canes that are intercrossing, we cut off all the way to the main stem, main cane like that. Again, anything that's growing in a weird direction. Here is an example of a thinner cane, but look where it's growing. It's growing down towards the ground. And that is not the direction I want to reinforce. So I'm going to cut this one off as well. Tiny little branches like this, cut them off. Cut them off. Again, clear example of a crisscrossing branch. Plus, it's very thin and spindly. I don't need that. Now, say you have multiple buds or nodes. However, they are facing in different directions. Let me show you an example. Here's an example. Here is a bud that is facing that way. Here you have a bud that is facing this way. So now the question comes down to, which direction do you want your canes to grow in? Do you want them to grow towards the arch of the trellis, or you want them to angle and grow away from the trellis? I want all of my canes, all of my branches to grow towards the trellis, because that is how I train my climbing rose. I want it to hug the trellis to make it look like a beautiful archway. So when deciding where to cut, so again, I want my branches, my canes to go towards the trellis. So I'm going to cut above the bud that is facing the trellis. Very important. Now, once you're done making those precision cuts, cutting off any spindly, weak, thin branches, once you're done cutting intercrossing canes to help your plant with that air circulation, what is step number 4? Step number 4 is looking for any leaves. If you have any old leaves remaining on your rose plant, which I do not, but if you do, remove all of them. If they fall onto the soil of your rose, climbing rose, make sure you clean it up as well. You want to get rid of any leaves, old leaves, any weeds, anything that's left from previous years. Here you are. I am done pruning both of my climbing roses, and aren't they looking so much neater, so much better? No more tangled mess, no more intercrossing branches. And look how many branches and canes I was able to cut off to clean up both of my climbing roses. I fertilized each one thoroughly, and now I can't wait for my roses to start waking up from dormancy and to put on some beautiful green lush growth. I am fully done pruning my first climbing rose right over here. You could see how much better my climbing rose is looking now. No more thick, mangy, unruly branches. All of the thin, weak branches were cut off as well. I have an entire pop-up bag filled with canes from pruning just one climbing rose. But look how much better it is looking compared to this one right over here, which I'm still working on. You could see the unruly, long, thick branches on this one. So I still have some work cut out for me, but this one is looking so much better. Let's now clean up after our prune. Make sure you discard of any branches, canes that you cut, as well as any old leaves or foliage that you might have removed or picked up from underneath your climbing rose. This is why in the very beginning I said you will need a pop-up bag, a trash can, or even a garbage bag, something to collect all the debris. What is that next fifth step? This step is last, but definitely not least. In fact, it is absolutely crucial. That fifth step is to fertilize. Right now, with the temperatures warming up, your roses are going to start waking up and showing growth. And once they wake up from their dormancy period, and that growth will kick off in a matter of short days, you're going to see that tremendous progress with your roses, your rose shrubs, your rose trees, your climbing roses. So right now, it's very important to fertilize our roses, to give them that boost of nutrients that they were looking for the entire winter season. I'm going to be using Rose Tone Fertilizer by Spoma Organic. It's a great fertilizer that's organic, and it's specifically produced for roses. Any roses, climbing roses, trees, rose shrubs, regardless of the varieties. I'm going to link it in the comment section below for those of you who are interested in using it as well. And I am not associated with Spoma Organic in any way. I do not market their products. I do not get reimbursed. I simply use Spoma Organic products myself in my home garden, and I am very pleased with the results that I always get. So now, there are very clear instructions on the back, but I always like to eye it. All you do is you take some Spoma Organic Rose Tone Fertilizer, which is granular, slow release fertilizer. You sprinkle it around the root ball of your rose. So I'm going to sprinkle it right in the container. If your roses are growing in the garden, sprinkle it onto the soil. Same process. Then you're going to need a shovel or rake of some sort to just mix in this fertilizer a bit. If you have no rain forecasted for the next few days, I do recommend that you water your climbing rose so the fertilizer does start to break down and get absorbed into the root system. We are expecting rain overnight, so I'm not going to water it in right now. But again, if there's no rain in your forecast, please thoroughly water your climbing rose. And that is it for the 5 easy steps for when it comes to pruning our climbing roses. So for those of you who enjoyed the content of today's video, if you found today's video to be useful, helpful, informative in absolutely any way, show me that support by clicking thumbs up below. Leave your comments in the comment section as well. Let me know, do you have climbing roses growing in your home garden? If so, what steps do you take to prune your climbing roses? For those of you who haven't yet subscribed to my gardening channel, Gardening in Cold Spring Harbor, what are you waiting for, guys? Super easy for you to do, super pleasing and rewarding to me, knowing that you guys enjoy watching my videos and that you find the content of my gardening videos to be useful, interesting, helpful. Click the bell icon as well if you want YouTube to send you notifications every single time I'll upload a new gardening video. Stay healthy, happy, be well, each and every single one of you. And happy gardening, my fellow home gardeners, and I'll see you again in my upcoming garden videos. Bye, guys.